welcome to the Grown Up Girls Report. I hope you've all had a great couple of weeks, and I'm so pleased to be back into your ears and eyes. It is such an honour and privilege. Now, today, I have got someone who is going to make you laugh, maybe even cry a little bit. It is Shelly Horton. Shelley, welcome to the podcast.
Alex, I'm so excited to have a chat to you.
Look, likewise, Shelley, because we have got uncannily similar stories. So lots and lots to talk about. Now, Shelley probably doesn't need a lot of introduction. But if we had to do a 25-word or less, Shelley is a journalist. She is a very, very powerful health advocate. She is now an author. She has a book that is coming out in July, which we're going to talk about. And she is really committed and dedicated to actually changing the lives of midlife women. So she is absolutely welcome on this podcast because we are all about making midlife women's lives that little bit easier. So Shelley, let's get into it.
Let's do it. I am your Peri Godmother.
I'm just going to dive right in, okay? And I want to take you back to the day that you woke up in the ICU and things hadn't gone according to plan. Can you take me back to that day and tell me what happened and then what resulted?
Yeah, it was a massive shock and very unexpected. And I woke up in the ICU very confused and also feeling like a bit of a fraud because the background is I had gone back and forward with a gynecologist about whether or not I should have had a hysterectomy for heavy bleeding during perimenopause or if I should have an ablation. So there'd been a lot of emotional and quite traumatic meetings with gynecologists who were female and yet so incredibly ill-informed and incredibly lacking in empathy that I was already feeling a bit raw. And then add to that I had been bleeding for 42 out of 52 weeks.
Really?
So as you can imagine, anyone listening, you know how drained you are after 1 week. Imagine it's been almost a year of it. So the decision was made that instead of having a hysterectomy, I would have an ablation. Now, for people who don't know what that is, it's basically where they burn away the uterine lining, and you can only have it if you don't want to have children and because it is permanent. Now, for me, I never wanted kids. I should have probably had it when I was 17, but I didn't know that at the time. So first time I went in for surgery, they went to do the ablation. They actually found a tumor and a polyp. So they couldn't do the ablation. So they removed that. And because it was a tumor and they didn't know if it was a nasty one or not, they couldn't complete the surgery. So 2 weeks prior, I had gone through that horrible thing of we have to send this away to see if you have uterine cancer, which I think that the not knowing is so horrific. And as I say in the book, when the gynecologist rang and she was fantastic. Instead of even saying hello, she just went, "It's good news, it's good news, it's good news," which was fantastic.
Yes, amazing.
So it was benign. So that was great. So they booked me in and I had to have the exact same procedure 2 weeks later. So I'd had no problems previously. It was one of those things where I was very relaxed about it because I was very relieved that it wasn't cancer. It's a 15-minute procedure to have an ablation. Like, it's pretty minor. I've had a lot of general anesthetics, about 15, I think. So I wasn't worried about anything to the point where I was like telling my husband, "Oh, I'll just see if I can get an Uber home." So then to wake up in the ICU with my throat shredded where I'd had an emergency intubation. My front tooth was chipped at the back. I had 4 cannulas in my arms where they had obviously just like shoved them in. I was so bruised. I could barely swallow and my ribs were killing me. And I was just like, what am I doing here? What went wrong? What's going on? And no one could give me a straight answer. And then luckily one of my girlfriends was going to pick me up because my husband was working, and she knew something was wrong because she hadn't had the call to pick me up. And she ended up just going to the hospital and then finding out I was in the ICU. And so she was the one who told my husband. Like, it was all very traumatic. And when the anaesthetist and the gynecologist came to see me, they were kind of upbeat and just like, wow, you gave us a scare. You crashed on the table and your lung collapsed, and we're going to go home and have tequila because we worked hard today. So again, I was like, whoa. And instead of me, and I am strong, I am smart, I am a health advocate, I went into, I'm so sorry. And I'm apologizing. I'm so sorry. I don't, I didn't do this. I'm such a drama queen. Of course, something small turned into an ICU incident. I was joking with the nurses saying, oh, if only I was in Sydney, I'd end up on RPA and I'd finally be on a reality show. All of that, which I think a lot of women do.
Yeah, we do.
You minimize and then you also make a joke of it so no one actually can see how traumatized you are. And then I had the guilt because I'm like, I'm not that sick and the people in ICU are dying. And so therefore I don't belong here. And I had an older nurse who was a bit firm with me, which I think I needed. And she's like, darling, you are very sick. No one is in the ICU as a frivolous exercise. You are here because you need to be here. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay. And I'm like, can you take some of the cannulas out? And they're like, no, we can't. They have said you must be kept on this level for 24 hours. So it was horrific. And then that night, you can't sleep in the ICU. There's all of those noises and people rushing around, and the other people in the ICU, had the full throat intubations and things like that. Like, it was just an awful, awful, awful time. And then I got home and I went into a little bit of Pollyanna of like, well, I survived that. I'm fine. And then a couple of days later, it hit me again. And I'm like, oh my God, I nearly died. So then the anaesthetist rang me. And I, by this stage, was like, tell me exactly what happened. And she's like, oh, we're not really sure. We think because of you carry all of your weight at the front of your body, so your boobs and your belly, we think that it put too much pressure on your lungs and your lung collapsed. Now, I, again, just accepted a bit of a side of fat shaming, and I just went into a bit of more of a spiral of depression, and, as women do. And it wasn't until, again, weeks later that I spoke to my psychiatrist, and she said to me, hang on a minute, can you stop acting like a victim and start acting like a journalist? Let's assess this situation. Unless you woke up in the middle of that anesthetic, grabbed a scalpel and stabbed yourself in the lung, you're not responsible for what happened. That anaesthetist is. And I was like, oh my God, I had not thought of it that way. So then it was just a case of spending the time actually letting myself heal, having some time off work, and getting to a point of recovery that I now know. And again, my psychiatrist gave me the research. If you give me the facts and the research, I'm very good. And she sent me some studies that show you don't recover mentally after the ICU for 6 weeks. And she's like, you're at 3 weeks. You're nearly there. It will get better, but it's 6 weeks. So I knew, okay, if I've got to do this 6 weeks, I'll be fine. And she was almost bang on to when I started to feel good again. So it was really scary. Here's the one thing I will say, though. The ablation worked, and I haven't bled since. So that has been amazing.
Wonderful.
But I now have I'm very nervous about having another general anesthetic. And I felt, and I do still feel let down that these surgeons and anaesthetists didn't actually try and look after me or protect me. They tried to protect their asses.
100%. So that's the first thing. They let you down. You were shamed. You were almost an inconvenience. They patted themselves on the back for you saving you. Geez, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Come on, guys. Let's just get the perspective here. But Shelley, what is it about us women and our need to apologize, our need to make a joke, our need to almost make others feel good in a situation where we're the ones that are clearly suffering?
We are people pleasers.
We are people pleasers.
And it's to our own detriment.
100%. But can I say, from my point of view, I can see such a correlation between all of that behavior, which I think, I probably have always been like that. But as my estrogen levels started to decline, that got worse and worse. Let me tell you, I had an ablation before Christmas. As I think I said to you earlier, our lives are incredibly parallel. It's just
Yeah.
uncanny, sister from another mister. But I had an ablation before Christmas. And as I was waiting in the pre-op, you know how you wait
Yeah.
there and you have
Yeah.
the awkward conversation and they're trying to reassure you. I remember making a joke about how you have it's called a hysteroscope, yeah? You probably
Yeah.
know all this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I kept saying, oh, should be a hysterical scope. I'm such a hysterical woman. Everyone thinks I'm so silly and I'm so much. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I saying all
Why
this?
am I
Why do
doing
I feel
this?
like I need to make all the nurses laugh to start with? Why is that to start with? And secondly, why am I making myself look stupid and sound like a
I
fool?
know.
It just
I
came out of my
know.
mouth. I just didn't even think. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. I swear, you and I, yes, definitely winning when it comes to this experience. I had a similar thing while I was waiting to have the anesthetic with the nurse in charge, where I was trying to convince her that she should go on maths. Like,
Right.
what? What?
Why?
All
Why?
of this is,
Can't
it's,
control
yeah.
ourselves. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I know.
unbelievable.
I think, look, I now think now I've been through that. If I'm in a situation like that again, I do think I will handle it differently.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you're in that situation. And I think there is that real conditioning, and we train ourselves to make everyone else feel comfortable.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know what? Fuck them.
Yeah, totally
We
right.
do not have to
Yes.
do that anymore.
Yeah. 100%. Let's not
Yeah.
worry about let them, but leave them alone.
Yes.
Let them. Let's just go straight to fuck them. I agree.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm with
So,
you. I'm with you, my friend. No, not on. Anyway, we can just live and learn. That's just the best way. We learn
yes.
from all these experiences. Now, the other thing, Shelley, I'm just going to go out on a bit of a limb here and say that we're new friends. We've only met today, but I think I know enough about you to know that probably in your 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s, you probably didn't have any issues with confidence. Your self-esteem was probably in pretty good
Yeah.
health. Got to say, mine was too. Absolutely, living our best lives. But then, you know, Peri hit, and it all changed. Tell me about that. And what did that feel like?
So for me, and I think this is the main reason that I wrote the book, was that I got sideswiped by Peri. I'd never heard of the word perimenopause before I went into it. So for me, the worst symptom for out of my entire peri experience was the perimenopausal depression. So I haven't really had mental health issues before in my life. I consider myself a very lucky person. Sure, I've had to see a counselor because of a marriage
Normal.
breakup, like normal stuff, but I'd never experienced this prolonged depression, which is what hit me. And what I found is, even though I knew I had supported friends with depression, I had written stories about depression, when you're in it, I was shocked at how insular I went. I didn't talk to people about it. I didn't share how I was feeling. It was basically just me and my husband, Darren. And not even my best friends really knew how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I think that that then chips away at your confidence as well. So if you're keeping this secret, and I would go in to Channel 9 and do the rah-rah and rally and be
Yes.
fine and do the little
Yes.
performance. But then as I was driving home, I would have tears streaming down my face, and my negative self-talk would be at banshee level. And I write in the book about it, but I think that if women actually said out loud what they say to themselves in their heads, it would shock you into stop doing it. Because what I say to myself in my head, I would never say to another human being. So with negative self-talk and the depression, and I just did not know what was happening with my body, it was like the perfect storm to have my confidence completely shattered, and shattered to the point where I didn't even want to work anymore. Like I just felt like an absolute fraud. And that I couldn't understand why people couldn't see how bad I was, which now I've done the research is incredibly common, and women tend to actually, it's really interesting. The International Menopause Society say that there's a confidence cliff that midlife women fall off. And so not only do we have a glass ceiling, we also have a hormonal ceiling that is preventing us from being at our absolute best. And I felt that to my bones. So I was really determined that by sharing my story and making sure that I gave evidence-based information on how to help yourself, hopefully it will help someone else not get to the point that I was.
Absolutely. And look, one of the things I love about your book is the fact that you share your story, which,
Mhm.
there's something so validating about reading someone else's experience because it's like, oh, yes, me too. Oh, my, thank
Yeah.
God, because that was my life. There is something so healing about that. So I want to thank you for that. It was incredible. Absolutely. But what I love even more than that is at the end of each chapter, you share wisdom from
Mhm.
experts in the field. And like, it's
Yeah.
almost like, okay, so you've identified an issue. Yeah, me too. Okay, been there. Here's what you can do. Here's your action plan. It's like, yes, it's
Yeah.
just genius, I have to say. Really, really, really loved it. I'm just very honored that I got a little bit of a sneak preview. So thank you so very much for that. So very much for that. So just back on the mental health, because again, for
Yeah.
me, that was my absolute biggest issue. So it struck me. It was a bit of a gradual burn for me. My confidence was probably quite high in my 20s and 30s. And I'm sure people would go, yes, Alex, it probably
Yeah.
was true. That's not always a bad thing. But then it hit in my mid 40s. And I remember going to my GP and saying, I just feel like I don't have words. I can't get the words out.
Yeah.
I don't even have my words. And I didn't even realize at the time. And she didn't perhaps know me well enough. We were new in our relationship, as you have with your GP, to actually work out that was the start of it all. And then the sleep went and, the wheels came off generally. But I did an incredible job. I look back now and I really think I should have gone to NIDA because I did the
Hang
most
on.
amazing job at the performance. So you'd be feeling absolutely like you couldn't move out of bed at home. You couldn't even look at your phone. You couldn't reply to texts. You were just in such a world of pain. You could barely even get off the couch, binge watching constantly, just terrible.
Yep.
But then if there was something on and I sort of felt, I don't know what it was, I can rally like no one else. And I could go out and I could razzle dazzle them and then come home and just cry again and then just retreat
Yeah.
back into my bed, which I'm pointing to now because I'm in my bedroom, and just cry and not move. And
Yeah.
it's just a terrifying thing. And barely told anyone, Shelley, like you. It
I
was it
know.
was a secret,
There is still such stigma and
isn't there?
shame, and we
Yep.
need the only thing that releases that is sunlight. And you even sharing your story now and that fitting in with my story, that
Mm,
is sunlight to show other women, don't rally. Don't
no,
rally.
please
What you
don't.
need to do is ask for help.
Yep.
Ask for help. Don't fake it till you make it, because you know what? There's a chance you won't make it. One of the most shocking statistics when I was researching perimenopausal depression is it affects 1 in 3. 1 in 3. And
Absolutely.
you don't have to have had a history of mental illness beforehand. So 1 in 3 women will get perimenopausal depression. Like, this should be on the national news. This
Absolutely.
should be like
Yes.
hot flushes. Who cares? Like, if
Absolutely. Don't
your
worry about
mental
them.
health goes,
Yep. No.
this is actually where we need to be pouring more research in. It's also the highest rate for suicide in a woman's lifespan. Between 45 and 54, that is perimenopause. Why haven't people not made that correlation before? So we have a lot of like research on postnatal depression. We're getting more and more research on PMS and PMDD. However, once you go, hang on, these are all hormonal
Yeah. Hello.
fluctuations.
Pattern?
There's a
Mm.
pattern here.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure, so my psychiatrist, Professor Jay Shri Kulkarni, who is a world leading
Yeah.
expert in perimenopausal depression, I'm pretty sure she told me that if, as a woman, you did have postnatal depression, you're pretty much 100% guaranteed that you will get perimenopausal depression
Yeah.
because you are sensitive to the hormones and the hormone fluctuations. So
That's
again,
me.
she said some women, when they get postnatal, go, well, it only lasted 3 months. I can rally. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But this can last 10 years.
Yeah.
So don't
Yeah.
rally. Like,
No.
please. I think if I could go back to me in 2020 when I had a doctor fob me off and I had no idea what was going on, the only thing I would say to myself, but while I was giving myself a big cuddle, is ask for help.
Yeah.
Educate yourself and ask for help. And if the first medical professional that you see fobs you off, fire them. Go somewhere
Yes.
else.
Keep looking.
Because
Keep looking.
me getting fobbed off, I think, was the thing that had me circling the drain. I think that when you aren't actually acknowledged and the doctors don't know. So if you've got a doctor who's like Gen X and over, they have had 1 hour or 0 hours of training of perimenopause and menopause, like, which is infuriating when you think
Absolutely.
it's 50% of the population and 100% of women who live long enough. Like, how have we been neglected for so long?
Oh, I don't know.
But
I don't
again,
know.
what we do is we look at our mothers' generations,
Yep.
and before that, no one spoke of it.
No one spoke
It
about it.
was silent.
Absolutely. Perimenopause wasn't even a term. I remember
Wasn't a
saying to my
term.
mother, I remember saying to my mother when, things started to unravel in my mid-40s that I said, I wonder if I'm going through perimenopause. She goes, well, she's a well-educated, smart lady. She goes, well, what would that be? She said, what
Yeah.
is like, she just didn't have any idea. It's very hard initially not to have a bit of pent-up frustration and anger
Yeah.
towards towards our mothers and our grandmothers for not sharing some of this know-how. But what I've learned is there was no know-how
There was no
because there were
know-how,
no,
and
yeah,
I think it again, you kind of need to look back with a bit of kindness,
you do.
which I didn't feel at the time, let me tell you, but I was mad at my mum for not warning me. And
Likewise.
now I'm mad for her that she wasn't given any tools. She didn't even have the language.
Nothing.
They don't, this stiff upper lip, this carry on has actually been to such a detriment of their way of life and their well-being. And it's all because we just don't want whinging women. I'm sorry, but this is not good enough. And
No.
that's why with our generation, it changes. It stops with us, and we are going to make sure that we get loud and we
Yeah.
educate women so they can make choices, not just suffer in silence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is what this book is doing. And that is what all your advocacy is doing. So just in case I forget to say later, thank you very much for that
Oh,
because really, really appreciate it. It's going to have a huge impact, absolutely. So let's talk about our mothers for a minute. So one
yeah.
of the chapters I liked in the book was when you were talking about this push and pull with your mum, and I think had penned an article that was about to be
Oh,
published talking
yes.
about, your perimenopause and your mental health, and I think the editor sort of said, well, actually, have you told your mum and dad? And you sort of went,
Yeah.
oh no, and she goes, well, I think you need to before you publish it.
Yeah.
Tell me the story. So you did.
I know. So it was. So it was an article about how bad my mental health was and that I felt so much shame I hadn't even told my mum and dad and my family. And my editor's like, no, we're not going to publish on this for this to go nationally and you haven't told your parents. So I was so teary at the time. Like I would cry nearly every day
Mm-mm.
when I was at my worst. And so I knew I couldn't pick up the phone and call mum. So mum and dad live in Queensland, and at that stage I was living in Sydney. So I decided I would send a text. So I sent a text, and it was probably the longest text of my life, but it was like, Mum, just letting you know I've been diagnosed with perimenopausal depression. I'm on HRT. I'm on an antidepressant. I'm seeing a counselor. Darren's being supportive. I have, everyone in place to look after me, but I just wanted to get you in the loop because I feel like you need to know what's going on. And her reply, chin up. Chin up. Oh my God. Doesn't that just sum up
Two
boomers?
words. Yeah, no, not very
So
helpful.
the only good thing about that was it was so shocking that it made me laugh.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
You've got to laugh.
my God, I can't expect my mum to turn into Brene Brown, but I
No.
didn't expect it was going to be quite that dismissive. Now, here's the thing is now, I mean, I went from writing that article to campaigning in Parliament and
Yeah, yeah.
speaking on TV. So my poor mother, who would never have spoken about that sort of thing, all of a
No, no.
sudden, I'm telling
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And it has actually become a bit of a bonding experience.
I love
Look, it might
that.
be trauma bonding,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it doesn't matter. But there's bonding. Let's take the positive. There's bonding.
But honestly, it's only now that mum and in the lead up to the book, and I'm actually so pleased that my mum allowed me to share her stories because her stories were horrific. She was a
Aren't they?
school teacher in a small country town that we grew up in called Kingaroy in country Queensland. So she had a year two class in like a 3 teacher school, like it's that small. And she was sitting in one of the plastic molded chairs teaching the class, and then all of a sudden she flooded and filled that chair with blood. So there was no mobile phones then, but luckily they did have the old phones on the desk. So she rang hoping to get the school secretary, and of course it was the elderly school male principal who picked up. And in fact, he turned into the hero of this story.
Okay.
He had a wife who'd been through menopause. So he ran down to the classroom and he just waltzed in and went, "Guess what, grade 2? We're going bird watching. Everyone follow me." So the whole
God love it.
class filed out, and behind him was the secretary with some towels.
I
And
love
so
it.
they mopped up the blood. And because it was a small country town, Mum just drove home and had a shower and got changed and drove back. But what a hero and what a brilliant way of handling it. But Mum had never told me that story. I'm like, I'm going through excessive heavy bleeding. Could have had a heads up on that one.
Absolutely.
But
Interesting.
now it's really is. I feel like we've shared everything together, and yeah, I'm actually really proud of where my relationship is with my mum now because of the fact that I just kept talking. I
Yep.
just
Good on
kept
you.
talking.
Yeah.
I'm
You
not
wore
going
it
to
down,
stop.
Shelley.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop. It's been really interesting, and then it's also been really hard because of course she read the book before it got published. But she read the book as a retired school teacher, so she had a red pen and a pink Post-it notes for all of the
Imagine.
grammatical errors and things like that. But I was really worried about what she would say about the depression chapter in particular and about my relationship with her because I wrote about that. And again, I was sort of on thin ice just going, so how do you feel? But in
Yep.
true mum form, just went, it's confronting, but it's fine. Again, can't expect
I
her to
love it.
change. I cannot expect her to change. She's 76, you know?
Yeah. And a straight shooter by the sound of it, which
Yeah,
we love
yeah,
a straight
yeah.
shooter. No BS. We love that. We love that. Absolutely. And then just quickly, just the last thing I want to say about your mum is I loved how I think after she sent you that 2-word reply to the text saying, what was
Chin
it?
up.
Sorry, chin up.
Chin up.
You received chin up rather. You received a lovely package in the mail.
Yeah. So this, I'm probably going to cry even telling this story. So
It was gorgeous.
I wasn't coping at all. I didn't feel like mum had connected with me. I felt dismissed. And then a couple of weeks later, a package arrives in the mail and it's a leopard print pajamas from Peter Alexander. And they were luxurious. And it just had a little note that just said, I don't really know what to say, but I hope when you wear these, you know you're loved.
Shelley.
Ah, isn't that
Beautiful.
beautiful?
Beautiful. Loved that so much.
I don't think her story's ever going to not make me cry because to me, her gift giving was her love language. You know, like she
Love
does.
language. Exactly.
We all have different languages, but I wore those pajamas nonstop, and I do feel loved when I wear them. So yeah,
That was
I think
beautiful.
sometimes you need to meet your loved ones where they're at, rather where you want them to be. It makes me
Sorry,
cry
doll,
every time.
sorry. I just loved that story. That was one of my favorite parts of the book, to be honest. I just
I know.
absolutely
Oh
love that.
yeah,
It really got me. It really got me. Now, I also just want to quickly talk about your husband, Darren, because oh
yeah.
my, what a guy! What a guy he is. So, I just want to relay a little story and then let you the rest with the listeners. You were in bed one day. I think one of the many days you're in bed, and you just couldn't get yourself out. And then Darren came to you, and this is a quote from the book, and said, I don't think there's anything wrong with you, but I think there might be something wrong with the chemicals in your brain. And I just thought, oh my God, what a kind, gorgeous man who is still such a believer and he's by your side and advocates for you and just wanted the best for you and could see you in spite of the depression. And I just thought that was so powerful. What a beautiful
I
guy.
think that is the most beautiful thing he's ever said to me.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't blaming me. And I
No.
think he could recognize that I was blaming myself for everything and
Yeah.
I'm not coping and I'm not good enough. And he was like, it's the chemicals in your brain. The next thing he did was what I think is also just as important is he helped me make an appointment to see a menopause specialist and he came with me to the appointment.
What a
And
guy.
I really recommend anyone who, particularly if you're not coping and if it is, perimenopausal depression is one of your symptoms. I cried the entire doctor's appointment, and it was Darren who's like, yep, she's been crying every day on and off for the last 6 months. She's, had really heavy bleeding, hot flushes. Like, he could lift off the symptoms because I could barely speak because I was so upset. So even if it's not that and he did step up as my advocate in that situation, but even if you just need someone with you to take notes, because when you get upset, you're not absorbing what the doctor's saying to you, or have a list of questions that you want answered when you go to your GP. I actually provide that in the back of the book. Here is a list of questions you should be asking your GP, because I found that I was getting so emotional and so overwhelmed, and then brain fog, and then, everything. I just would come out of an appointment going, well, I didn't even scratch the surface. The other thing I really recommend is book a long appointment.
Yes,
15 minutes
definitely.
doesn't freaking cut it. I'm sorry. We cannot discuss anything with perimenopause in 15 minutes. You need a long appointment. And even if you don't have a great GP, there's a telehealth service called WellFem. And for their menopause, and I think more menopause doctors are doing this, but for their first appointment, it's 1 hour.
Perfect.
Yes, you pay more,
Perfect.
but I'm like, I need an hour to talk about
Yeah, yeah.
everything that's going on and unpack it. And to me, that's when you're getting your best care.
100%. And you deserve it. Okay, it is more money,
Mm.
but and as women will think, oh my goodness, what about the kids and their shoes and the other
Yeah, yeah,
expenses?
yeah.
You know what? They don't need new shoes. You are the priority. And I think that's something, again, we often don't do
Yeah.
well for ourselves. So, yeah, good advice, Shelley. Now, in the book, you focus on, I love the term, the unholy trinity of symptoms. What a description, so perfectly said. Now, and you have the top three worst symptoms as hot flushes,
Mm.
insomnia, and brain fog.
Yeah.
Now, apart from the mental health, were they your top three?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have tried to give as much advice as possible, but I just need to be really honest and say I didn't ever get on top of my hot flushes. My
Oh,
HRT didn't stop
right.
them. Like,
Okay.
it's something like 98% of women, when they go on HRT, their hot flushes stop, but they didn't for me. And also, hot flushes come in different types, which I had
They
no
do.
idea about. So for me, I would get the Hollywood style ones where I'm like all of a sudden dripping in sweat. But I also just sat at about 3 degrees hotter than everyone else for years. Now, touch wood and everything around me.
Don't want to jinx you by you saying this.
I know, but
Keep
I
going
haven't
though.
had a hot flush in about 6 months. I've started wearing jackets again. I've started feeling cold again. Now,
Good.
part of me goes, is that because I'm actually now postmenopausal? But
That's
because
right.
I've had the ablation, I won't know. Or is it just finally my body's going, okay, I'll give you a freaking break? I don't know. So the hot flushes, I really found quite embarrassing. And again, I feel like I had an extra level of shame about it because it's just like, oh, she's overweight, hot, sweaty, fat woman. That's all going on in my head. That's not
Of
what
course it
other
is.
people are saying.
No one thinks that.
So there was that sort of thing. But then what I ended up doing, and this is what worked for me, is I just own them. So when I had a hot flush, instead of just trying to be embarrassed and cover it up, I just declared it. And there was one time in particular, it's one of my favorite stories. I was in at Channel 9, ready to do my regular thing where I debate the news of the day. That barely makes my heart rate go up. Like I've been doing it for so long. I love
Sure.
doing it. And normally I'm like fighting with Ben Fordham or John Mangos or someone like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And then that day I got in, I'm all ready, I'm fired up. And they said, oh, by the way, today you'll be debating Liz Hayes. And I swear this hot flush just went woof, like an absolute volcano through me. And it was just anxiety, like, because
Yeah, of
I
course.
idolize her.
Yeah.
She,
Fangirl.
absolute fangirl. But how embarrassing. So I'm fanning myself with my notes as I swear, she doesn't walk, she glides. She's
Imagine.
gliding
Like a
to the
queen.
studio. And so I just had to like own it. I'm like, Liz, I'm so sorry. I'm having a hot flush. And she was so amazing. She just
Bet
leant
she
in and put her hand on my arm, and her hand was freezing cold compared to my, volcanic body. And she just went, "Oh, sweetheart, I've been there, done that. It gets better." And I'm like, that sisterhood feeling, that
Yes,
you're not
yes.
alone, the lack of judgment from a hero was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I wish I had easier advice about hot flushes, but for me, it was just about managing them with
Yep.
cool clothing and avoiding spicy foods. I also was told to avoid alcohol. I did not do that. So, look,
Oh, that's a very hard one.
I give a lot of advice in the book, and I'm also like, let's just say I don't follow all of that advice. But the other one was insomnia, and I
Yeah, tell
found
me about
that
that.
again, the anxiety and feeds into insomnia. I now am have a regimented routine to go to bed.
Okay,
Like, it is military.
okay.
So I basically treat myself like a toddler. I have a bedtime. So my
I love it.
bedtime is 9:30. Now, make sure that I am winding down. I know we're supposed to have no screens for an hour before
Yeah.
bed. I just can't do that. I
It's the
try.
hardest one.
It's so hard. I can see all the research that supports it. I understand that, but
Mm.
it's just an addiction of mine that I have to cope with. One thing that I do is I don't scroll on my phone in bed. I have my phone beside the bed and I put my ear pods in and I listen to an Audible book. That's one of my favorite ways to go to sleep. And I put it on a timer so I don't wake up and the whole book's finished. But the other thing is I make sure my bedroom is dark. It's cool because the science shows you that if you drop your body temperature by 1 degree, it's easier to go to sleep. My husband and I have separate doonas, which
Yeah, like the Germans do that.
I know,
Genius.
they do it, and it
They're
makes
ahead of
so
their
much
time.
sense. You're not
Yes.
fighting over the doona, and
No.
also he's got a heavy hot doona and I've got a very light one. So
Perfect.
all of these things, just making sure that you are doing what you can. One thing that one of the experts suggested, which I quite liked, is if it's like true insomnia, is having some worry time where you actually journal what's worrying you. So you just get it all out of your head. So you're
Mm.
not ruminating on it when you're lying there. So I think that's
Like a
pretty clever.
brain dump.
It's a brain dump, yeah. So that's something that I have done, and it has made a huge difference. And I've realized I'm just a nicer person when I get, 7 to 8 hours sleep. And when you
Totally.
sleep well, all of your symptoms are much easier to deal with. When you don't sleep, then the meno rage is there, the craving for sugar is there, your brain fog is worse. Everything gets worse if you're not sleeping. So whether or not you choose to go on HRT, I certainly do choose, and I try to understand people who don't want to, even
Yeah,
and not judge them.
likewise. It's life-changing.
Yeah, right?
I was gonna
And
say that. Can I just say it's less life-changing?
life-changing,
And
and
you need to try it.
it's natural. So it comes from yams now. It is body identical. So don't give me the whole, I just want to do it naturally.
Yeah.
Why? Why suffer? Also, it's going to protect your brains, your heart, and your
Mm.
bones. Yeah, osteoporosis. So anyway, it's still a choice, and I have to, get in my head.
Of
This is
course.
about choice. My biggest thing is I hope, because I've gone through all of the research and that flawed WHI study that,
Yeah,
made everyone think that HRT causes breast cancer. Now women are making a choice because it's a choice, not a choice made out of fear. Not a
absolutely.
choice of like, oh, but my grandma had breast cancer, I can't. That's not true.
No,
Oh, my
absolutely
sister
not.
had breast cancer, therefore I can't have. Not true. So if they've got the facts, they
Yeah.
can now make the informed decisions.
Absolutely. My mother had breast cancer. She had postmenopausal breast cancer,
Wow.
which is the best one to get because
Right.
it's, you're over probably usually the critical period. And I've been on HRT in various forms. I actually struggle with the mainstream estrogen patches, to be honest. I'm an outlier in all of this stuff. I have something called estrogen dominant. So my body doesn't detoxify all of that estrogen. I get this, it's almost like I've got a permanent hangover if I take mainstream estrogen. I'm a bit of a weirdo.
Wow.
So I have to get compounded estrogen, which is at a lower degree, lower
Yeah.
intensity. And I can tolerate that and, good to go. So I'm so grateful that I've got a doctor that I can work with who's a bit integrative as well. I sort of like that vibe. But
Bit
you've
of
got to
both.
find your
Yeah.
people. You've got to find someone who you resonate
Get
with.
your health team, but make sure they're
Absolutely.
talking to each other. That's the
Indeed.
biggest thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't use patches. I was on patches for a while, but
Yeah.
it just caused such skin irritation for me.
Oh, okay.
And I was
Like
getting
eczema.
rashes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I was actually emceeing an event in Melbourne, and um, Dr. Louise Newson was the key
Yes,
speaker.
gorgeous,
I
amazing.
love her.
Yeah, we love her. Again, big
Anyway,
fan girl.
me being me, I just like pull my pants down to show her my patch because I ended up, my pharmacist gave me like a second skin, you know, that plastic
Yes.
to hold the patch on because my hot flushes meant that it wasn't sticking well, all of that.
Yes.
And she was just like, that's not going to be absorbing at all. You need to go to the gel. And I went to the gel and
Life
everything was
changing.
better. I know.
How amazing. So good.
You
God.
gotta
Okay.
kiss a few frogs, HRT
You do.
frogs, until you find the one right for you. But once you do, life changing.
Life changing. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Now, Shelley, one of the other things I love about your work is the advocacy that you have done for women in the workforce. Now,
Mm.
my husband has, and I'm very proud of him, he has a lot of women that he has employed, and I love that. And often he'll come home, as you do. I'm sure you talk with Darren, you talk about the day, and he'll be relaying a story about someone or something they're going through or a bit of a challenge. And I'll say, hey, just hang on for a minute. She's perimenopausal. And he's very good because he's lived this roller coaster with me now for the last, I don't know, 5 years, 8 years.
Yep.
Who knows when it started, who knows when it's going to finish. But what I love is that the culture is changing. There is still work to do, but you've played a really important part in that.
Mm.
Can you tell me about why you wanted to get involved and some of the changes you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I basically ended up chatting with my friend Dr. Ginny Mansberg, and we were like, why are there so many women who are falling through the cracks and not knowing about perimenopause? And we realized that even with that, you know, shroud of secrecy, there
Mm.
was also women aren't really going to church as much as they were. Like they weren't like those bonding, or they weren't having as many large family gatherings where they might get some generational advice. And we realized that work is the new church. Work is where
Mm.
we are bonding with other women our age and working out what's going on. And so we're like, this is where we need to educate women. It's like in school, women's health stops at reproductive age. Like you have a baby, that's it. You don't learn anything else. So I believe it is a responsibility of workplaces to educate men and women about what's going on here. So we did a big deep dive into the research, and the best research we got was from the UK because they're honestly about 10 years ahead of us. We are
They do
quite
such a good job.
behind.
Yeah.
And there was a really good study that showed up to 1 in 10 women actually leave their jobs because they're not managing their peri symptoms. Now, it's not that they retire because they're 47? You can't
Yeah.
retire then.
Right.
What they were doing is they were taking lesser important roles. So maybe they were a bank manager and they take a job as a receptionist at a vet's. Now, if that's their choice, all power
Right.
to them.
Yep.
But it's not their choice. It's what they're doing, what they think they can cope with because they haven't been educated about how to look after themselves and how to find a GP who will give them HRT and help them manage their symptoms. So we now go into workplaces and I speak at conferences and we've had retreats. You know, it's just about getting the word out there as much as possible. But my biggest thing is if you look at mental health in the workplace, 10 years ago, no one would put their hand up and say they had anxiety or depression. It was taboo. Now you have mental health first aid officers, you have Are You OK Day, you have all of this support and education. The next stage is going to be perimenopause and menopause. And there
Absolutely.
are workplaces who are really being proactive about it. Our biggest thing is education. And I believe if you educate people, they can then make their own choice. But then you're also educating everyone. So you don't have like the guy in IT going, God, it's just the computers like on the glitch. Why are you crying about it? You know, like they understand this is
Mm.
part of, you know, having perimenopausal symptoms. And then it's about having a policy where it's provides information. So a menopause policy shouldn't be just like a dusty PDF that's, you know, no one looks at. It should be where women go for information on the latest studies, what's being, you know, said around the world. And I believe we need a similar thing to the mental health first aid officers, and I call them menopause mentors
Love
because
it.
there's also this great thing that we need to lean back into of getting wisdom from our elders. So
Mhm.
have the women who've been through it help those who are about to go through it. And they might have their own strategies and things, or even just empathy and compassion. And I think this is going to take a while because we've
Yes.
also experienced going into some workplaces where the older women like, well, I didn't get any help.
Yeah, I
And
know.
there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of resentment.
There's a little bit of resentment. Then there's also the younger people going, well, Jesus, I don't want to take advice from someone who's crazy. So I just feel it's a little bit awkward at the moment, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the dance. And the more we talk about it and the more we educate people, the easier it will be to have conversations in the workplace. And I had Westpac as one of the clients, and they employed us for 3 webinar series. And we'd done 2, and then the people and culture person contacted me and said, we've been contacted by some of the men in leadership who would like to have their own menopause session. And at first I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, can't we even have one thing for ourselves? And then I stopped and I'm like, why? And she said, they don't ever want to be taking away time from women asking questions. They don't want to be seen to be really silly because they don't even really know how a menstrual cycle works. They want to learn what language to use so they're not being offensive.
Yep.
And they wanted to support their wives. So they
Oh,
actually had
Shelley.
come from this incredible place, and I was ready to rip them a new one.
Yeah, 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 totally.
And I've got to say, that webinar ended up being one of the favorite ones that I have hosted, and I had some incredible men sharing stories, and they were true allies and absolutely wanting to learn. So I don't ever want to turn men into the enemy, because if
Never.
we don't know what's going on, how the hell could they possibly know what's going on?
Yeah. 100%, 100%. And also just back on that, the underemployment, I suppose, that occurs as a
Mm.
result of women leaving the workforce because they're overwhelmed and not managing symptoms. What a loss to our society and what a
Absolute
loss to
loss.
our workforce and our country and our economy.
It makes
Like,
business sense. It's when comes down to
absolutely.
the bottom dollar, which is what most businesses care about, it makes business sense to keep
Yep.
these incredibly talented
Absolutely.
women with a lot of expertise and not have them walking out the door. So it
No.
makes business sense. And then for women, it contributes to the pay gap that they
Yep.
are taking a lesser
Yes.
job,
Yes.
or they're
Yes.
leaving work completely and then they're losing super. Like all of this, it makes sense to invest in midlife women.
Absolutely. Love that. Love, love, love your work in that area. Massive, massive fan, massive fan. Now, Shelley, I just want to quickly go back to the book
Yeah.
and there's a quote. I'm going to read you a quote. Page 162 for reference. One of the biggest shifts I've made is learning to give myself grace. This wasn't easy and I still work on it every day. Now I'm redefining what success looks like. Success for me is about feeling comfortable in my own skin, having the energy to do the things I love, and being present in my own life without obsessing over my body. It's about health, not perfection. What wise words. I'm very proud of you for getting there. Tell me
Yeah.
how, tell me your mindset. Tell me how you do that. Because
So
that's hard. I struggle.
yeah, and I've been very open in the book with all of my body image struggles and weight struggles and things like that. But I've got to say, it was waking up in the ICU where I'm like, I'm making some freaking changes.
Good on you.
I made the commitment to walk every day, and I've now been doing that. I'm going to say 6 days a week. Like it's not perfect, but again, I'm not putting the pressure on myself to be perfect.
That's
But
right.
I walk most days of the week. And I have done that now for nearly 18 months. Now, have I lost weight? No.
It doesn't
Have I
matter.
felt better? Yes. Has it
Right.
been great for my mental health? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Good
Do
on
I
you.
love that I live on the Gold Coast? This morning I went for a walk with my husband and we saw a whale. Like,
Oh my gosh, how
that is such
amazing.
a brilliant way to
The
start the
buzz.
day.
Yeah.
So for me, that sort of thing of like, doesn't have to be beating myself up in a spin class or, boxing or anything like that. So I changed to doing the walking, and I didn't think I'd ever want to go to the gym again because it was all just too overwhelming. But once I'd done a year of walking, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm ready to step it up. And I knew all the research was saying you have to lift heavy shit. What I decided to do, I was scared of hurting myself. That was my main fear. I'm like, I've had back surgery. I've got a dodgy hip. You're like, all I need now is I won't be able to walk because I'll hurt myself at the gym. So I ended up going to a strength class that's actually run by a physio here on the Gold Coast. So big shout out to Libby, because she has Glow 10, so you can do it online as well. She has classes of just 6 women, and we lift heavy weights. And she supervises the whole thing, and we encourage each other, and we're so I went this morning, and it was like one of, some of the women in the class are over 60, some of them are young mums, but it's all about learning how to lift heavy weights and being consistent with it. And it's getting to the point now where I am loving it. And
Cool.
now, and this has been a big shift for me, and I still fall off the wagon, but I'm trying to not weigh myself. I don't
Okay.
need to look at the scales and then have, like, my brother sent me a note years ago that said, don't weigh your self-esteem. Because if I got on the scales and it was high, I'd feel bad. If I got on the scales and it was low, I'd feel great. I was the same person. So for me, I'm starting to really lean into making sure that I'm going on, how do I feel rather than how do I look, or what weight am I at? And in no way am I perfect. I am still a work in progress, but I
You all are.
kind of have a little bit of this inner smugness of like, ooh, I'm actually making changes here and they're sticking. Like, I'm not going all or nothing. I'm just being consistent. And I think the more you're consistent with whatever you do, that's when you will see long-term change. So not going for the quick fix.
I went to that seminar, Shelley. It's so hot right now that you
Oh, at the
emceed.
Opera
It was
House.
amazing at the Opera House. Loved, 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 loved. It was almost like, and I just have to say, it was almost like a religious experience for me. It was just so phenomenal. Just a room full of women who were just so grateful to be there, who felt so
Yeah.
validated. It was just amazing.
There was a
Anyway, I came
standing
away from it.
ovation of 2,500 women. Like,
Phenomenal.
I was on stage and I have never, that was an absolute, not just career highlight, that was a life highlight. That was, you could smell the estrogen in the room
You
and it
could.
just connected everyone. And it was like, we're here and we're going to get through this together.
Yeah, 100%. I was hugging random people. It was just incredible. Oh my God, we were all on such a high. Estrogen high. It was wonderful. But anyway, I came away from that after seeing all the experts, Mary, is
Yep.
it Mary Claire and
Dr.
then
Mary
Dr.
Claire Haver.
Bondra? Absolutely. And I had a to-do list that was just as long as both my arms probably together.
Yeah.
I've got to lift heavy. I've got to do this. I've got to take my creatine. I've got to add
Yeah.
change my supplements. And then I found myself getting a little overwhelmed and all
Yeah.
the things I had to do. And then I'm thinking, okay, Alex, back it up right here. One thing at a time, one
Yeah.
little small change. And I find that's how I try and use grace and try and operate with kindness and grace, and don't expect too much from myself.
Yeah.
Just take it bit by bit, slowly, slowly, like you have with your exercise.
Yeah.
And that's how I find that I make the change. I really do. I know what I need to be doing. And I know my brain can be a bit mean and beat me up for
Yeah.
not doing enough at a time, but just, Alex, bit by bit, and you'll get there.
It's exactly what we are learning. And I
Yeah.
agree. I feel like as a perimenopausal woman, we're on a constant hunt for protein, supplements, lifting heavy, doing like that. It is overwhelming.
There's a lot.
Pick one
Yeah.
and do it. And then once that's stuck, pick another one and do that. And that's what's really helping me. I honestly feel that I can say I am feeling well. And that's
Good.
a great thing to say. Like, I don't think I could have said that for years. So feeling well is the holy grail for me.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. Feeling well and happy, and you're having some
Yeah.
zest. And let's talk about menopausal zest,
Yes.
because the last chapter in your book is about it. And I think it's really important that we remember that, it's really hard. It's a roller coaster. As you and I have been through, the depression can just be so bleak and you can feel like you're never going to get out of it. But, and there is a big but, there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Tell me about your menopausal zest and how you
Yeah.
define it and what it means to you.
So it was actually menopausal zest is a term that was coined by the American anthropologist Margaret Mead in 1950s. So it's not
Really?
new. It is not new.
God.
And it's
Okay.
showing that once you get through the hormonal chaos and everything kind of calms down, women step into their power. And I, as you know, I do like to swear in the book, but it's also called Giving
Good.
Zero Fucks.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
not buried under the weight of other people's expectations anymore. You're doing things that make you happy. You're doing things that you've always wanted to try because you just don't care if someone thinks that you might look a bit silly or something like that. And there's all this incredible research of women changing careers or turning their side hustle into their mainstream job, going on holidays without the family, things like that.
Amazing. Life-changing.
Amazing.
Life-changing, yeah.
Because what we see often is women have put themselves last for so long. It's the husband, it's the kids, it's the aging parents, it's everything. And then it's like, you know what? I actually do need to fill my cup up as well.
Yeah.
And once they do that and they see the benefits of it, they're not going to let that go.
No, no, no,
So
no.
I am absolutely feeling menopausal zest. I don't think you
So
have to be officially in menopause to get the menopausal zest because
good to know.
I feel so excited about the future. When I was in my, puddle of peri-depression, there hardly was a future for me. So to be able to have come out the other side of it and just go, oh no, oh, this is our time to shine. I
Yeah, yeah.
refuse to be invisible. I think, again, that's an old generation thinking. I'm not going to be a midlife invisible woman.
No, no, no. No,
And
no.
also, look at midlife women now. We're hot. Like, we are not
Yeah.
the old, hunched grey haired women who used to be. Now, if we want to have grey hair, we will, but we will rock it. So
Yeah.
I think that we're looking at, celebrities who are postmenopausal, who are kicking goals and winning Oscars and running businesses. It's incredible. So
It is.
I think that this is like, world, we've put you on notice. Look
Yep.
out because
Yeah.
we're stepping into our power
Yeah.
and we are wise women. We have got a lot of experience to draw on and we're not putting up with any shit anymore.
Absolutely not.
Come on.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The next chapter is going to be the best chapter. That's what I say. He's all ahead of us. We've got the wisdom, we've got the looks, Shelley, we've got the energy, we've got the
Yep.
zest. We are good to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shelley, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Your book is going to change things for our daughters, our granddaughters, and also for us that are still navigating it. So
Yeah.
it is incredible. Now tell us about the book. When is the book out? And I love the name. Tell us the name.
It's I'm Your Peri Godmother, which I love. I am your
Love,
Peri
love, love.
Godmother.
Love, love.
And it comes out on July 29. So you can pre-order now. So if you just put
Yep.
it into Google, you'll be able to find it. But then as of July 29, it will be out there in the world. This is like, I've never had children. This is my baby.
This is your
So
baby.
please, everyone, take care of my baby. But I am so excited to get it out there because I really don't think there's anything else like it. We've got
No.
medical books, which I think definitely have their place. We've got some people who've told their story but haven't given actual scientific advice. So
Yes.
this, I think, it's new and it's, as well as going into, the sadness and the horror, it's also pretty fucking funny. So I've
Yeah,
managed to
it's
throw some
hilarious.
humor in there because I don't want it to be doom and gloom. I think that we
No.
can easily, fall into a bit of a doom and gloom about how hard it is. But if you've got a sense of humor and it becomes almost like a shared language as well, because if you've got other women who are going through the same thing, you're like, yeah, we're in the middle of that shit show as well. So I've got you, babe. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
am thrilled that it'll be out there. And I really, really, truly hope that it helps women get through this with a little bit less silence, shame, and stigma, and a little bit more menopausal zest.
Shelly Horton, thank you so much. You're a legend.